Harrison Blackwell sat alone in the darkness of his home theater at 3 a.m, watching the same security footage he'd watched 1,000 times before. On the massive screen, his wife Catherine lay in the delivery room 5 years ago, her face twisted in agony as doctors shouted commands he could no longer hear through his memory. The timestamp read 11:47 p.m. By 11:52, she was gone. By midnight, he held 2 silent babies who would never walk, never speak, never live the lives Catherine had dreamed for them. The twins had been born with a condition so rare that only 14 cases existed in medical literature worldwide. Complete lower body paralysis. No vocal cord function. Doctors called it a miracle they survived at all. Harrison called it a curse. He'd spent the last 5 years consulting every specialist on 3 continents. Millions of dollars. Experimental treatments. Surgeries that went nowhere. The house remained silent except for the mechanical hum of wheelchairs and medical equipment. Now Owen and Olivia were 5 years old, trapped in bodies that wouldn't respond. They communicated through eye movements and a special computer system that cost more than most people's houses. Harrison had hired and fired 17 caregivers. Some quit because the situation was too heartbreaking. Others he let go because they pitied his children, and he couldn't stand that look in their eyes. The doorbell rang at exactly 6 a.m., interrupting his spiral into the past. He turned off the screen and walked through the massive, empty house to answer it. A young African-American woman stood on his doorstep, wearing simple black pants and a white blouse, her hair pulled back neatly. She held a small folder and met his eyes with a calm, steady gaze that surprised him. "Mr. Blackwell? I'm Jessica Washington. I'm here for the caregiver position." Harrison stepped aside to let her in. She was the 18th person he'd interviewed in 6 months. The agency had sent her file ahead, but he'd barely glanced at it. What did qualifications matter when no one could help his children anyway? Could this stranger really see what 17 others missed? Drop a comment below with your thoughts, and subscribe to see what happens next. "The twins are in the sunroom," Harrison said, his voice rough from lack of sleep. "Follow me." They walked through hallways lined with family photos. Catherine's smile beamed from every frame, frozen in happier times. Jessica didn't ask about the woman in the pictures. She didn't offer condolences or sympathy. She simply walked beside him, taking in the space with observant eyes. The sunroom was Harrison's attempt at normalcy. Floor-to-ceiling windows let in natural light. Soft rugs covered the hardwood. 2 specialized wheelchairs sat by the window, and in them, his beautiful children stared out at a garden they'd never run through. Owen had Harrison's dark hair and serious expression. Olivia had inherited Catherine's delicate features and wide eyes. "Owen, Olivia," Harrison said softly, "this is Miss Washington. She's going to be spending time with you." Neither child turned. Neither child acknowledged the introduction. This was normal. This was every day. Harrison waited for Jessica to show that look, the one that said she'd made a terrible mistake coming here. Instead, she walked directly to the twins and knelt between their wheelchairs. She didn't touch them yet. She simply positioned herself where they could see her if they chose to look. "Good morning, Owen." "Good morning, Olivia," she said in a warm, gentle voice. "I'm very happy to meet you both." Olivia's eyes flickered toward her for just a moment before returning to the window. It was the most response Harrison had seen his daughter give a stranger in months. Harrison led Jessica back to his office, leaving the twins with their morning nurse. He gestured to a leather chair across from his desk and sat down heavily. The interview process had become routine. He'd ask questions. They'd give rehearsed answers. He'd see through the facade. They'd leave. "Your resume says you worked at Mercy Children's Hospital for 3 years, Harrison began, scanning the file he should have read earlier. "Why did you leave?" "Budget cuts eliminated my position," Jessica answered simply. "I was the newest member of the therapy team, so I was let go first." "Therapy team?" Harrison looked up. "You're a therapist?" "Music therapy, primarily. I also have training in sensory integration and physical rehabilitation support. I'm not a physical therapist or doctor, but I worked alongside them helping children with developmental challenges." Harrison felt the familiar weight of disappointment. Another person who thought they could fix what couldn't be fixed. Miss Washington, I need to be clear. My children have seen the best neurologists in the world. They've had every scan, every test, every experimental treatment available. Their condition is permanent. I understand, Jessica said calmly. I'm not here to cure them, Mr. Blackwell. I'm here to care for them. The distinction caught him off guard. The position pays $90,000 annually. You'd live in the West Wing, have your own space. Meals provided. Health insurance. For weeks paid vacation. That's very generous. The hours are demanding. The twins require round-the-clock attention. You'd be on call whenever needed. I expected as much. Harrison studied her carefully. Why do you want this job? You could make similar money at another hospital once positions open up. This is, frankly, a depressing situation. Jessica met his gaze steadily. Mr. Blackwell, I don't find your children depressing. I find them remarkable. In the 10 minutes I spent with them, I noticed Owen tracking movement with his eyes and Olivia responding to my voice. They're aware. They're present. They deserve someone who sees that. Something shifted in Harrison's chest. Catherine used to say the same thing during those first terrible weeks. Everyone else saw tragedy. She saw their babies. When can you start? He asked. Today, if you need me. I need you, Harrison said quietly. James, my assistant, will show you to your quarters. Move in whenever you're ready. I'll have the lawyers draw up a contract. Thank you, Mr. Blackwell. Jessica stood and extended her hand. I won't let you down. Harrison shook her hand, noting the firm, confident grip. Call me Harrison. And Miss Washington, I should tell you. I'm offering $120,000, not $90,000, plus a signing bonus of $10,000 to help with moving expenses. That's not necessary, Jessica started to say. It is to me. Please accept it. Jessica paused, then nodded with a small smile. Thank you, Harrison. I accept gratefully. As she left his office, Harrison allowed himself the smallest flicker of something he'd thought was dead. Not hope exactly, but maybe the shadow of it. Jessica moved into the West Wing that same afternoon. Her quarters were larger than the apartment she'd been sharing with 2 roommates. A bedroom, sitting area, private bathroom, and small kitchenette. Windows overlooked the garden where Owen and Olivia spent their mornings when weather permitted. She unpacked quickly, then returned to the sunroom. The twins were alone now, their morning nurse having finished the scheduled care routine. Medical charts hung on a clipboard nearby, documenting every detail of their daily needs. Medications, feeding schedules, physical positioning requirements to prevent bedsores. It was all very clinical, very procedural. Jessica pulled a chair between the wheelchairs and sat down. She didn't speak immediately. She simply sat with them, watching the garden, letting them get used to her presence. After 20 minutes, she began to hum. Nothing specific, just a gentle melody her mother used to sing. Owen's right hand, resting on the wheelchair arm, twitched slightly. Jessica kept humming, not changing her rhythm or volume. She pulled out a small notebook from her pocket and made a note without stopping the tune. 3 minutes later, Owen's fingers twitched again, this time more noticeably. She switched to a different melody, something with a slower tempo. Olivia's eyes moved from the window to stare at the ceiling. Another note in the book. For the next hour, Jessica experimented with different sounds. Humming. Soft singing. Speaking in various tones. She documented every tiny response, every eye movement, every finger twitch. The medical charts on the wall recorded vital signs and medication schedules. Her notebook recorded something else entirely, evidence that these children were more present than anyone realized. When Harrison came to check on them before lunch, he found Jessica sitting cross-legged on the floor between the wheelchairs, reading aloud from a children's book. Her voice was animated, full of different character voices and expressions. How are they doing? He asked. Beautifully, Jessica said, standing up. Owen's been tracking the pictures in the book. Olivia has been listening to every word. May I ask you something? Of course. Do you have their complete medical records? Not just the recent ones, but from birth? Harrison tensed. Why? I'd like to understand their condition better. With your permission, I'd like to read through everything. The initial diagnosis, the subsequent evaluations, all of it. You think you'll find something dozens of specialists missed? Harrison tried to keep the bitterness from his voice but failed. I think I'll find your children, Jessica said gently. Not a diagnosis. Them. Are you seeing what Jessica is seeing? Comment below and hit subscribe to follow this incredible journey. Harrison considered her request. What harm could it do? I'll have James bring the files to your room tonight. There are 43 volumes. Thank you for trusting me with this. Miss Washington, at this point, I'll trust anyone who sees my children as more than a medical file. There's so much more than that, Jessica assured him. I promise you. For 3 weeks, Jessica followed the established routine while secretly conducting her own research. During the day, she cared for Owen and Olivia, continuing her observations. At night, she read through medical files, taking detailed notes. She video-called her mother, Gloria, who had been a nurse for 30 years. Baby, what you're describing sounds like selective neurological inhibition, Gloria said over the phone one evening. I saw a case like this once, years ago. Child was diagnosed with permanent paralysis, but it turned out to be a misread of the imaging. What do you mean? The neurons weren't dead. They were dormant. Extreme trauma during birth can sometimes cause the nervous system to shut down pathways that are actually still viable. It's the body's way of protecting itself. Jessica's heart raced. How did they treat it? Intensive stimulation therapy. Sensory input to wake up those dormant pathways. It took months, but the child eventually recovered almost full function. After the call, Jessica pulled out the twins' birth records. The delivery had been catastrophic. Emergency C-section. Severe hemorrhaging. Catherine had coded twice before she died. The babies had been deprived of oxygen for nearly 4 minutes. Every specialist had focused on the oxygen deprivation as the cause of permanent brain damage. But what if they were wrong? What if the paralysis and mutism were protective responses, not permanent damage? Jessica spent the next 4 days cross-referencing the medical literature. She found 7 cases worldwide similar to what Gloria described. All had been initially misdiagnosed. All had shown improvement with proper therapy. The window for intervention was typically the first 10 years of life. Owen and Olivia were 5. There was still time. On a Tuesday morning, Jessica asked Harrison to meet her in his office. She brought her notebook, filled with weeks of observations, and a folder containing the research she'd compiled. Harrison sat behind his desk, looking tired. He always looked tired. What's this about? I think your children's condition might be reversible, Jessica said directly. The words hung in the air. Harrison's expression didn't change. He'd heard promises before. False hope was worse than no hope. I know you've consulted with the best doctors, Jessica continued quickly. And I'm not a doctor. But I've been documenting responses you might not have seen. Owen's fingers move when he hears certain sounds. Olivia's eyes track specific movements. These aren't random. They're consistent patterns. She opened her notebook, showing him pages of detailed observations. Times, dates, specific stimuli, and corresponding responses. Then she showed him the research on similar cases. Harrison read through everything slowly. His hands shook slightly as he turned pages. When he finished, he looked up at her with eyes that held too much pain to process more disappointment. What are you proposing? Music and sensory therapy. Specific exercises designed to stimulate dormant neural pathways. I can design a program based on the successful cases I found. It won't happen overnight. It might take months, maybe longer. But I believe there's a chance. And if you're wrong, if this is just another dead end, then we'll have spent time engaging with your children in meaningful ways. That's not wasted, even if the outcome isn't what we hope for. Harrison stood and walked to the window, his back to her. When he spoke, his voice was rough. What do you need? Specialized equipment. Some instruments. Permission to adjust their daily routine to include intensive therapy sessions. Cost. Maybe 50,000 for everything. You'll have 100,000 by tomorrow. Buy whatever you need. Hire any consultants. Just, please, help them. Jessica stood. I will do everything in my power. You have my word. Harrison turned to face her, and for the first time since she'd arrived, she saw tears in his eyes. Why are you doing this? Why do you care so much? Because they're worth caring about, Jessica said simply. And because I believe miracles happen when we refuse to give up. The equipment arrived within a week. Harrison had ordered everything Jessica requested and more. A professional music therapy setup. Specialized mats and cushions. Sensory stimulation tools. A physical therapy station. He'd converted an entire room on the first floor into a dedicated therapy space. Jessica spent 2 days setting everything up, consulting via video call with specialists she'd found through her research. Dr. Patricia Reynolds, a neurologist in Boston who'd successfully treated one of the similar cases, agreed to review the twins' files and provide guidance. On Monday morning, Jessica gathered Harrison and the twins' regular nurse, Beth, to explain the new routine. She'd prepared a detailed presentation, outlining the therapy schedule and what they might expect. We'll start with 3 one-hour sessions daily, Jessica explained, showing them the timeline she'd created. Morning, afternoon, and evening. Each session will combine music, sensory input, and gentle physical manipulation. The goal is to stimulate neural pathways through multiple approaches simultaneously. Will it hurt them? Harrison asked immediately. No. Everything is gentle. If they show any signs of distress, we stop immediately. This is about creating positive associations with movement and sound. Beth looked skeptical. I've been with them for 2 years. I've never seen them respond to anything. That's because no one was looking for the right responses, Jessica said carefully. Watch. She led them to the sunroom where Owen and Olivia sat in their wheelchairs. Jessica knelt beside Owen and began humming the specific melody she'd identified as triggering his finger movement. She waited. 30 seconds passed. Then Owen's right index finger twitched, then moved deliberately. Beth gasped. Harrison moved closer, staring at his son's hand. He's been doing this consistently for 3 weeks, Jessica said. Only with this specific frequency. Now watch Olivia. She turned to the little girl and spoke in a particular tone she'd discovered, a mid-range frequency with slow cadence. Olivia, if you can hear me, look at your father. Slowly, deliberately, Olivia's eyes moved from the window to Harrison's face. Harrison's legs seemed to give out. He sank to his knees beside his daughter's wheelchair, tears streaming down his face. She's in there. She's really in there. They both are, Jessica confirmed. They've been here all along, just locked away. But I think we can help them find their way out. This moment changes everything. Subscribe now to see Owen and Olivia's journey unfold. Harrison looked up at Jessica, his face transformed by something she hadn't seen before, genuine hope. Whatever you need. Money, time, resources. Anything. Just please, keep going. I need your support and patience. Progress will be slow. There will be setbacks. But I believe we can help them. When do we start? Today, if you're ready. We're ready. Harrison stood and wiped his eyes. Owen, Olivia, Miss Jessica is going to help you. I need you both to be brave and try your best. Can you do that for Daddy? Owen's finger moved again. Once, twice, 3 times. Jessica smiled. I think that's a yes. They began that afternoon. Jessica had designed the first session carefully, combining 3 elements: music at specific frequencies, gentle massage of the twins' arms and legs, and vocal exercises. She played a digital keyboard while simultaneously working through a series of stretches with Owen's arms. Harrison watched from the doorway, not wanting to interfere but unable to stay away. He saw his son's face, typically blank, show the smallest flicker of expression when Jessica played a particular chord progression. After an hour, they switched to Olivia. The little girl received the same careful attention, the same combination of sound and touch. When Jessica sang a simple melody, Olivia's throat moved, almost like she was trying to swallow or vocalize. "That's it, sweetheart," Jessica encouraged softly. "You're doing so well." By the end of the first day, Harrison felt something he hadn't experienced in 5 years. Not hope, exactly, but the possibility of hope. And for now, that was enough. 6 weeks passed. The therapy continued every day, 3 sessions daily, with Jessica documenting every tiny change. Harrison had initially planned to observe from a distance, but he found himself drawn to the therapy room more and more often. He'd sit quietly in the corner, watching Jessica work with his children. She had infinite patience. When Owen's arm resisted a stretch, she didn't force it. She waited, tried a different approach, encouraged without pushing. When Olivia seemed frustrated, Jessica would adjust the activity, finding what worked. She sang constantly during sessions, her voice filling the room with melodies that seemed to reach something deep within the twins. On a Thursday morning in the 7th week, everything changed. Jessica was working with Owen, playing a pattern on the keyboard while gently moving his left leg through a range of motion exercise. She'd done this exact sequence hundreds of times. But this time, when she moved his foot, she felt resistance. Not the passive weight she'd grown accustomed to, but actual muscular resistance. "Harrison," she said quietly, not wanting to startle anyone. "Come here." He crossed the room quickly. "What is it?" "Put your hand under Owen's foot. Tell me what you feel." Harrison knelt and placed his palm under his son's small foot. Jessica moved the leg again. Harrison's eyes widened. "He's pushing back." "He's pushing back," Jessica confirmed, her voice shaking with emotion. Owen's toe moved. Not a twitch. Not a spasm. A deliberate movement. The big toe curled downward, then straightened. Then curled again. Harrison made a sound somewhere between a laugh and a sob. He covered his mouth with one hand, staring at his son's foot like it was the most beautiful thing he'd ever seen. "Owen, buddy, can you do that again?" Harrison asked. "Can you move your toe for Daddy?" The toe curled. Once. Twice. 3 times. "Oh my God," Harrison whispered. "Oh my God." Jessica was crying too, but she kept working, testing Owen's other foot, his ankles, his knees. The movement was limited to that one toe, but it was movement. Real, voluntary movement. That afternoon, they tested Olivia with the same exercises. At first, nothing. Then, just as Jessica was about to move on to a different activity, Olivia's right hand clenched into a tiny fist. Harrison called Dr. Reynolds immediately, sending her videos of the movements. The neurologist reviewed them and called back within an hour, her excitement clear even through the phone. "This is remarkable," Dr. Reynolds said. "I want to examine them in person. Can you bring them to Boston next week?" "We'll be there tomorrow," Harrison said. The examination took 3 hours. Dr. Reynolds ran multiple tests, checking reflexes, nerve responses, muscle tone. When she finished, she sat down with Harrison and Jessica in her office, smiling broadly. "The neural pathways are waking up," she confirmed. "Whatever you're doing, it's working. I want to see them monthly to monitor progress, but Miss Washington, your therapy protocol is exactly right. Keep doing what you're doing." On the flight home, Harrison sat beside Jessica while the twins slept in their specialized seats. He'd barely spoken since leaving the doctor's office, processing everything. "Thank you," he finally said. "Those words don't come close to expressing what I feel, but thank you." "We're not done yet," Jessica reminded him. "This is just the beginning." "I know. But for the first time in 5 years, I believe there might be an ending to this nightmare. A good ending." He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out an envelope. "I'm doubling your salary, effective immediately. And here's a bonus for the progress so far." "Harrison, you don't need to." "Please," he interrupted gently. "Let me do this. You've given me my children back. Money is the least I can offer." Jessica accepted the envelope with a nod. "Thank you. I'm grateful." As the plane flew through the night sky, Harrison looked at his sleeping children and allowed himself to imagine a future he'd thought was impossible. Owen running through the garden. Olivia's laughter filling the silent house. A life that looked something like normal. 3 months into therapy, the progress accelerated. Owen could now move all his toes and flex his ankles. Olivia had regained significant movement in both hands. But the most dramatic change happened on a Tuesday afternoon during a vocal exercise session. Jessica had been working with Olivia on breath control, using techniques designed to strengthen the diaphragm and vocal cords. She'd sing a note, then encourage Olivia to try pushing air out, even if no sound came. They'd been doing this for weeks with minimal results. "Okay, sweetie, let's try again," Jessica said, positioning herself at eye level with the little girl. "Take a breath with me. In and out." She demonstrated, exaggerating the breath. Olivia's chest rose and fell, mimicking the pattern. "Good. Now, I'm going to sing R, and I want you to try pushing air out at the same time. Ready?" Jessica sang a clear, sustained note. Olivia's mouth opened. Her face scrunched with effort. And then, faint but unmistakable, a sound emerged. SSSSS. Jessica's hands flew to her mouth. "Olivia. Say it again. Please, baby, try again." Olivia's eyes locked onto Jessica's face. Her mouth moved. SSS. Jess. Yes, that's me. I'm Jessica. You're saying my name. Jess. Jessica. The word was whispered, barely audible, but it was clear. Olivia had spoken. Jessica burst into tears, pulling the little girl into a gentle hug. "You did it. You spoke. Oh, Olivia, you spoke." Harrison had been in a business meeting in his home office. His assistant James was mid-sentence when Harrison's phone buzzed with an urgent text from Jessica. "Come to therapy room now." He ran through the house, James following, both men taking stairs 2 at a time. They burst into the therapy room to find Jessica crying, holding Olivia, who looked confused but alert. "What happened? Is she okay?" Harrison rushed forward. "Listen," Jessica said, pulling back from Olivia. "Sweetie, can you say it again? Say my name." Olivia's small voice, unused for 5 years, croaked out the word. "Jessica." Harrison's knees buckled. James caught him, both men staring at the little girl who had just spoken her first word since birth. Harrison crawled across the floor to his daughter's wheelchair, taking her small hand in his. "Olivia, baby. Can you say daddy?" The little girl looked at her father, her eyes filling with tears. Her mouth worked, forming the word carefully. "Da. Daddy." Harrison sobbed, pressing his forehead against his daughter's lap. "Yes. Yes, baby. I'm daddy. I'm here. I've always been here." James discreetly left the room, his own eyes wet. Jessica stood back, giving the father and daughter their moment. Owen watched from his wheelchair, and Jessica could swear she saw something like happiness in his expression. "This is the moment we've been waiting for. Don't miss what happens next. Subscribe and comment how this makes you feel." Over the next 2 weeks, Olivia's vocabulary expanded rapidly. Simple words at first. Yes. No. Please. Thank you. Her voice was hoarse from disuse, but with practice, it grew stronger. Dr. Reynolds consulted via video call, recommending specific exercises to build vocal strength. Then, on a Sunday morning during music therapy, Owen joined in. Jessica was playing piano while Olivia sang along, attempting the lyrics to a simple children's song. Owen sat nearby, moving his fingers and toes to the rhythm. When they reached the chorus, a second voice joined in. "Twinkle, twinkle." Everyone froze. Owen's voice was rough, deeper than expected, but it was there. He was singing. Harrison had been reading the newspaper in the adjacent room. He dropped it and ran into the therapy space. "Owen." "Daddy," Owen said, the word coming easier than Olivia's first attempt had. "Daddy. I'm here, son. I'm right here. Can't feel my legs," Owen said slowly, each word an effort. "But I hear everything." The admission broke something open in the room. All this time, Owen had been aware. Hearing every conversation. Understanding everything. Trapped in silence. "We're going to help you," Harrison promised. "Miss Jessica is going to help you walk and talk and do everything. Do you believe me?" Owen's eyes met his father's. Yes. From that moment, the twins' progress became a collaboration. They could now express what they felt during therapy. When something hurt. When something felt good. What they wanted to try. Jessica adjusted her approach based on their feedback, and the results accelerated beyond anyone's expectations. Harrison called Dr. Reynolds with the update. She arranged to visit the following week for a comprehensive examination. When she arrived, she brought her colleague, Dr. Marissa Chen, a leading physical therapist who specialized in pediatric rehabilitation. The examination took an entire day. Both doctors tested reflexes, muscle response, nerve function, and cognitive ability. That evening, they sat down with Harrison and Jessica to discuss their findings. "This is one of the most remarkable recoveries I've ever witnessed," Dr. Reynolds said. "Not only are the neural pathways reactivating, but they're doing so in a coordinated way. The combination of music therapy, sensory stimulation, and physical manipulation has essentially retrained their nervous system." "What's the prognosis?" Harrison asked. "With continued therapy, I believe Owen and Olivia will regain significant mobility. Walking is possible, though it may take another 6 to 12 months. Full recovery, that's harder to predict. But what Miss Washington has accomplished is nothing short of miraculous." Dr. Chen added, "I'd like to work with Miss Washington on an advanced physical therapy protocol. With their permission, I'd like to make this a case study. What we're seeing here could help countless other children." Harrison looked at Jessica. "What do you think?" "If it helps other children, I'm in favor," Jessica said. "But only if Owen and Olivia are comfortable with it." They asked the twins that evening. Owen and Olivia, now able to express themselves, both agreed. They wanted to help other kids like them. The case study began, with Dr. Chen visiting twice weekly to work alongside Jessica. Harrison documented everything, the medical staff amazed at the twins' steady progress. More importantly, the house was no longer silent. It was filled with voices, with laughter, with the sounds of children learning to live. As spring turned to summer, the house transformed. Harrison hired contractors to make modifications, installing parallel bars for walking practice, adding ramps alongside stairs, creating an accessible playground in the garden. Every change was made with Jessica's input, ensuring it served the twins' therapy needs. Harrison found himself spending less time in his office and more time in the therapy room. His business partner James could handle most operations, and for the first time in years, Harrison had something more important than work, his children's recovery. One evening, after the twins were in bed, Harrison found Jessica in the garden. She sat on a bench, looking exhausted but content. "Mind if I join you?" he asked. "Of course not." They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, listening to the evening sounds. Finally, Harrison spoke. "Catherine would have loved you." Jessica looked at him, surprised. "Your wife. She never gave up on them. Even when the doctors said there was no hope, even when I started to lose faith, she insisted they were in there somewhere. She died believing they'd come back to us one day. She was right. She was." Harrison paused. "I've been so focused on their medical condition that I forgot they needed more than treatment. They needed someone who saw them as children, not patients. You gave them that. They've given me just as much," Jessica said honestly. "Purpose, joy, the chance to do meaningful work. I'm grateful to be here." Harrison looked at her in the fading light. Over the months, he'd noticed things. The way she laughed at Owen's jokes. How she braided Olivia's hair each morning. The gentle patience she showed, even on difficult days. She'd become more than an employee. She'd become part of their family. "Can I ask you something personal?" Harrison ventured. "Sure. Why weren't you married? Someone like you, I'd think." Jessica smiled. "I've been focused on my career. Building my skills, working with children. Relationships always seemed to take a back seat." She paused. "What about you? After Catherine, did you ever think about?" "No," Harrison said immediately. "I couldn't imagine being with anyone else. She was it for me. When she died, that part of my life died too." "I don't think she'd want that," Jessica said gently. "From what you've told me about her, She'd want you to be happy. Maybe. But how do you move on from perfection? You don't move on from it. You carry it with you and make room for something different. Jessica looked at him directly. Grief isn't about forgetting. It's about integrating loss into your life while still remaining open to joy. Her words settled something inside Harrison. They sat together as stars appeared overhead, two people who'd found themselves in unexpected circumstances, connected by the love of two remarkable children. Over the following weeks, Harrison and Jessica developed a routine. After the twins' bedtime, they'd meet in the garden or the library, talking about the day. Harrison shared stories about Catherine, about his business, about his fears and hopes. Jessica talked about her family, her dreams of opening her own therapy center someday, her love of music. The twins noticed. One morning, Olivia asked Jessica directly, "Do you like my daddy?" Jessica, caught off guard, answered honestly, "Yes, I do. Very much." "He likes you too," Olivia said matter-of-factly. "He smiles now." Owen added, "He didn't smile before." "Not really." The observation made Jessica realize how much had changed. Not just for the twins, but for all of them. The house that had been filled with grief was now filled with life. Harrison, who'd been a ghost in his own home, was present and engaged. And Jessica, who'd taken this job thinking it was temporary, couldn't imagine being anywhere else. One evening in late July, after an exceptionally good therapy session where Owen had stood unassisted for 30 seconds, Harrison asked Jessica to have dinner with him. Not in the kitchen where they usually ate with the twins, but in the formal dining room. "Is this a date?" Jessica asked, half joking. "Would that be okay?" Jessica's heart raced. "Harrison, I work for you. There are boundaries." "I know. And if this makes you uncomfortable, we'll pretend I never suggested it. But Jessica, these past months with you have been the happiest I've been since Catherine died. Not despite what we're going through with the twins, but because of it. Because you're here. Because you've brought light back into our lives." "I feel the same way," Jessica admitted. "But your children have to come first. Always. They do. And they adore you. Olivia told me yesterday that you're the best thing that ever happened to us." She's 5, but she's not wrong. Jessica smiled, feeling tears prick her eyes. "Okay. Yes. Let's have dinner." That evening, they sat across from each other in the dining room, candles flickering between them. They talked for hours, the conversation flowing easily from one topic to another. When Harrison walked her to her room later, he stopped at her door. "Thank you for saying yes. Thank you for asking." He hesitated, then leaned forward and kissed her forehead gently. "Good night, Jessica." "Good night, Harrison." As Jessica closed her door, she pressed her fingers to where he'd kissed her, smiling despite herself. Life had a strange way of bringing people together. She'd come here to help two children. She hadn't expected to fall in love with their father. But as she lay in bed that night, she realized it had already happened. Somewhere between the therapy sessions and late-night conversations, between Owen's first step and Olivia's first word, she'd fallen completely in love. 6 months after Jessica had arrived, Dr. Reynolds scheduled a comprehensive evaluation. She brought a team of specialists, including Dr. Chen and 2 other neurologists who'd been following the case. The examination took place over 2 days, testing every aspect of Owen and Olivia's development. On the second morning, the moment everyone had been working toward arrived. Owen stood between parallel bars, Jessica on one side and Dr. Chen on the other. He'd been practicing this movement for weeks, building strength in his legs and core. "Okay, Owen," Dr. Chen said. "We're going to try something new today. Instead of just standing, I want you to shift your weight to your right foot. Don't try to step yet. Just shift." Owen nodded, his face serious with concentration. He was wearing special braces that provided support without doing the work for him. Slowly, carefully, he shifted his weight. His left foot lightened on the ground. "Excellent," Dr. Chen encouraged. "Now back to center." Owen shifted back. Then, without being asked, he shifted to his left foot. "I want to walk," Owen said clearly. His speech had improved dramatically, though he still spoke slowly, carefully forming each word. "Are you sure you're ready?" Jessica asked. Yes. Dr. Chen and Jessica exchanged glances. They'd planned to wait another month, but Owen's determination was clear. All right, Dr. Chen agreed. 1 step. Left foot forward. We've got you. Harrison stood nearby with Olivia in her wheelchair. She'd been making progress too, but Owen was slightly ahead in gross motor skills. Cameras recorded everything for the case study. The room was silent except for Owen's breathing. He lifted his left foot off the ground. For a moment, it hung in the air. Then he moved it forward 6 inches and placed it down. His entire body shook with the effort, but he didn't fall. He'd taken a step. The room erupted. Harrison rushed forward, stopping just short of Owen to avoid disturbing his balance. Son, you did it. You walked. 1 more, Owen insisted. He lifted his right foot. Moved it forward. Placed it down. 2 steps. Tears streamed down Jessica's face. Dr. Chen's eyes were wet too. After 5 years of paralysis, this little boy was walking. The medical miracle they'd all hoped for was happening. Over the next month, Owen's walking improved rapidly. The braces came off. He could move from the parallel bars to a walker, then from a walker to taking independent steps. By the end of summer, he was walking short distances without any assistance. Olivia's progress followed a similar trajectory but focused more on fine motor skills first. She could now use her hands fully, feed herself, draw pictures. Her walking came a bit later, but when it did, it came fast. 2 months after Owen's first step, Olivia took hers. The day both twins walked across the garden without assistance, Harrison gathered everyone who'd been part of their journey. Jessica, the doctors, the therapists, James, even the household staff who'd supported them throughout. I can't adequately express my gratitude, Harrison said, his voice thick with emotion. You've all contributed to a miracle. My children are walking. They're talking. They're living. Thank you. Dr. Reynolds announced she was publishing the case study in a major medical journal. The therapy protocol Jessica had developed would be made available to specialists worldwide. Other children with similar conditions might have hope for recovery. That evening, after all the guests had left, Harrison found Jessica in the library. She was writing notes for the case study, documenting the final stages of recovery. Hey, he said softly. Hey. She looked up, smiling. I need to tell you something. Harrison sat beside her. These past 9 months with you have changed my life. You saved my children. But more than that, you reminded me what it means to hope, to believe in possibilities, to feel joy again. Harrison. I'm in love with you, Jessica. I know there are complications. I'm your employer. We're in a unique situation. But I can't pretend anymore. I love you. Jessica set down her pen, turning to face him fully. I love you too. I've loved you for months. I kept telling myself it was inappropriate, that I should keep professional distance. But Harrison, when I see you with Owen and Olivia, when I hear you laugh, when we talk late into the night, I fall more in love with you every single day. Harrison cupped her face in his hands. What do we do about this? We be honest. With ourselves, with the twins. We take it slow. We make sure this is real and right. It's real, Harrison assured her. It's the most real thing I've felt in years. He kissed her then, gently at first, then deeper. When they pulled apart, both were smiling. The twins are going to be insufferable about this, Jessica laughed. They've been dropping hints for months. They'll be happy. They love you as much as I do. From that moment, their relationship shifted from hidden feelings to open affection. They told Owen and Olivia the next day. The twins' response was immediate excitement. Olivia clapped her hands and declared Jessica would be the best mommy ever. Owen, more reserved, simply smiled and said he'd hoped this would happen. Dr. Reynolds returned a month later for a follow-up examination. Owen and Olivia ran to greet her at the door, actually ran. The doctor stood in the entryway, watching them move with fluid grace, and wiped tears from her eyes. This is what we work for, she told Jessica. This exact moment. The examination showed continued improvement. All major motor functions were normal. Speech was age-appropriate. Cognitively, both children tested above average, possibly because they'd spent 5 years absorbing information without being able to respond. They're going to live completely normal lives, Dr. Reynolds confirmed. There may be some residual weakness, some days that are harder than others. But these children have made a full recovery. Harrison held Jessica's hand as they received the news. Against all odds, against every doctor's prediction, his children were okay. More than okay. They were thriving. 1 year after Jessica had first walked through the door of the Blackwell mansion, the house hosted its first party in 6 years. Friends, family, medical staff, and media representatives gathered to celebrate Owen and Olivia's 6th birthday. But more than that, they celebrated recovery, hope, and the power of refusing to give up. The garden had been transformed with decorations. Owen and Olivia, wearing matching birthday outfits, ran through the crowd playing tag. No wheelchairs. No medical equipment. Just 2 happy children enjoying their birthday. Dr. Reynolds gave a speech about the case study, which had been published to international acclaim. Medical centers worldwide were implementing Jessica's therapy protocol. 5 children with similar conditions had already shown improvement. The numbers would only grow. This recovery represents more than medical advancement, Dr. Reynolds said. It represents what's possible when we combine science with compassion, expertise with intuition, and professional skill with love. Jessica stood beside Harrison, watching the twins play. Her mother Gloria had flown in for the party, along with her 2 brothers. Her entire family had embraced Harrison and the children, welcoming them warmly. As the party wound down, Harrison gathered Owen, Olivia, and Jessica in the library. The children sat on the couch, curious about this private moment. "Kids, I want to talk to you about something important," Harrison began. He was nervous, his hands slightly shaking. "You know that I loved your mother Catherine very much. She was an amazing person, and she loved you both before you were even born." "We know, Daddy," Olivia said. "But something wonderful happened this past year. Miss Jessica came into our lives. She helped you get better. She helped me remember how to be happy. And we fell in love." Owen grinned. "We know that too, Daddy. Everyone knows." Harrison laughed, some tension easing. "Right. Well, I have a question for you both. How would you feel if Miss Jessica became part of our family permanently?" "You mean like a mommy?" Olivia asked. "Yes. Like a mommy." Both children looked at Jessica. She was crying, already knowing what was coming but overwhelmed by the emotion of the moment. "We want that," Owen said seriously. "We want Jessica to be our mommy." Olivia nodded enthusiastically. "She already is, kind of. But officially would be better." Harrison pulled a small box from his pocket and knelt in front of Jessica. Owen and Olivia scrambled off the couch to kneel beside him. "Jessica Washington, you walked into our lives when we needed you most. You saw possibilities where everyone else saw tragedy. You loved my children when they couldn't show love back. You taught me that hearts can heal and that second chances are real. Will you marry me? Will you be my wife and be Owen and Olivia's mother?" Jessica was sobbing now, happy tears streaming down her face. "Yes. Yes, to all of it. Yes." Harrison slipped the ring onto her finger while the twins cheered. Then all 4 of them hugged, a tangle of arms and laughter and tears. The wedding took place 3 months later in the garden where Jessica had first observed the twins. It was a small ceremony, just close family and friends. Gloria cried through the entire event. James served as best man. Dr. Reynolds attended with her family. But the most important participants were Owen and Olivia. Olivia served as flower girl, walking down the aisle confidently, scattering petals with dramatic flair. Owen carried the rings, his steps sure and steady. When Harrison and Jessica exchanged vows, both children stood beside them. "I promise to love your children as my own," Jessica vowed. "To support them, encourage them, and remind them daily of the miracle they are." "I promise to honor what you've given us," Harrison vowed. "To build a life worthy of your love and to never take a single moment for granted." When the officiant pronounced them married, Owen and Olivia cheered louder than anyone. The new family walked back down the aisle together, complete at last. That evening, after the reception ended and guests departed, the four of them sat in the library. Owen and Olivia were exhausted but happy, snuggled between Harrison and Jessica on the large couch. "Tell us the story again," Olivia requested. "About when Jessica first came." "You've heard it 100 times, Harrison teased. "We want to hear it again." So Jessica told them, as she had many times before, about walking into the quiet house and meeting two beautiful children who couldn't walk or speak. About seeing past their condition to the people inside. About believing in possibilities when everyone else had given up. "And then what happened?" Owen prompted, even though he knew. "Then you both worked very hard. You were brave and strong. And slowly, day by day, you came back to us. And you married Daddy," Olivia added. "And I married Daddy. And we lived happily ever after," Owen concluded. Jessica kissed the top of his head. "We're living it right now." As the children drifted off to sleep, Harrison looked at his wife, still amazed by the transformation of his life. A year ago, he'd been a broken man living in a silent house with children who seemed beyond reach. Now his house was filled with noise and laughter. His children ran and played and drove him crazy in the best possible ways. And he had a partner, someone who understood his past but focused on their future. "What are you thinking?" Jessica asked softly. "That miracles are real. That love heals. That giving up is never the answer. Good thoughts. The best thoughts." Harrison pulled her closer. "Thank you for not giving up on us. Thank you for letting me try." They sat together in the peaceful library, their children asleep between them, the future stretching out with infinite possibility. The journey had been difficult, the odds overwhelming. But they'd persisted, believed, and loved their way through. And in the end, that had made all the difference.